Janitorial Manager presents the Business of Cleaning podcast, the podcast that brings you the information you need to be successful in the cleaning industry. The Business of Cleaning podcast provides in-depth interviews with successful personalities from the commercial cleaning industry, as well as discussing the trending topics that matter to you and your organization. Welcome into the Business of Cleaning podcast, your number one source for information on the commercial cleaning industry. We release new episodes monthly live from the Janitorial Manager Studios located in Toledo, Ohio. I'm Tim Clegg, the Marketing Communications Specialist here at AA Solutions and your host of the Business of Cleaning podcast. This month's episode, we are excited, thrilled to welcome in former TV production executive, now CEO and co-founder of AK Building Services, Shari Cedar. And Shari, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you on. Everybody has a unique journey, but I think this one might be the most fascinating.
I thank you so much for having me. And yes, it is not every day that you go from being a television producer to a CEO of a commercial cleaning company. It is a very, very hard left turn, or however else you want to phrase it.
And I'm not gonna lie, when I was kind of doing research before I reached out, I was kind of geeking out a little bit because working here at AA Janitorial Manager, I still am chasing the TV dream, still calling broadcasting games regional all over Ohio and Indiana, Michigan, some other states. So I was excited to kind of see somebody else from the industry.
Hey, it's good to like be with your people, and
Absolutely.
being in the janitorial services industry, we don't get to talk shop very often. So it's kind of fun.
Well, let's go ahead and start right there. What drew you first into the television industry originally? Was it storytelling, the creativity aspect, or was it something else in general?
Great question. I'm curious. Like, I'm a curious one and I'm an adventurer. And I love, experiential learning. So for me, TV production completely made sense. But honestly, I kind of happened upon it by accident. After graduating college, I became a ski bum in Colorado because what else would I do?
Right.
And and I found myself being the weather girl in Steamboat. Like it's a story in itself, but it was accidental, and I loved it. I loved it. And then I went on to produce public service announcements. Um, and then I went and got a master's in broadcast journalism. But what really drew me to it and gravitated was the storytelling aspect that I could parachute
Absolutely.
into a world that I know nothing about, totally become an expert in it really fast, and then like share everything I learned with everyone else. Like, what could be better?
There's only a few people, too, that can truly understand what it's like when you get that countdown, Sherry. Here we go. We're going live in three, and then you go live. I don't, I never get nervous. I just get goosebumps almost like, all right, here we go. We're at it again. What was that like for you when you were doing meteorology?
Oh, well, okay. So let me frame that because it was in Steamboat Springs, it was very, local, but it was still thrilling and exciting. And I don't think at that point I was sophisticated enough to really understand the significance of it. But I will tell you, I have been experiences where I have done live shows. Live was certainly not like my specialty. I wasn't directing Letterman every night, but I have done live shows. And when they do a countdown and you are on air, it is an adrenaline
hmm
unlike anything you can experience. You're in it and your sort of senses peak out and it's very visceral and honestly, like, it's the best thing in the world
Yes,
as
it's
long as you don't screw up.
I've told people it's a high that if you are in television, you understand, and if not, then you won't be able to chase that and kind of have that feeling. Everybody hopes their big break comes, right? Do you remember when your opportunity came, your big break in the TV industry came?
I can't say I had like a specific big break, but there's certainly milestones or key
hmm
points that I
Yeah.
recognize. And I do remember when I first started out, and I was working for this production company in New York, and it was over Christmas, and one of the producers, and they called them VJs back then, right? Like
Hmm.
if you're my age, you know what a VJ was, but you're on camera, like you're shooting and producing. And one of the VJs got sick. And I was like, I'll do it. I'll do it. They're like, you can shoot, produce, and be on camera. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Like, forget that it was the holiday. I had plans. Like,
Right.
and to me, that was the coolest moment. And I got to actually do a sort of docu-series on Bigfoot, like the monster trucks.
Yes.
And I got to drive Bigfoot. I was almost killed by Bigfoot, um, among other things on that shoot. But that was a moment that changed the trajectory of my life because I got the in, like the
Hmm.
door opened.
Yeah.
And I have a few moments like that along the way, but when you make it happen for yourself, man, does that feel good?
And of course, a lot of people don't realize the high pressure that comes and unpredictability that comes working in television. What were some of those moments for you where you recall high pressure, unpredictability moments you had? And how did you handle it? And how has it kind of helped you in the commercial cleaning industry where it is still, we were talking before we recorded, it is an unpredictable industry in the service industry as well.
Okay. I think for those of us, there's a group of us who can really operate well at that elevated, heightened, like I don't want to call it panic level, but like it's happening level. So I'm
Right.
going to give you a few stories that scared the crap out of me. I had the honor and privilege of being an executive producer on one episode of Oprah's Favorite Things. Okay. It like really doesn't get any better than that in your career, right? So, but as I said, live is not my it's not my specialty. No one's
Mhm.
hiring me because I was a live producer, but the company who was producing this trusted me, knew me, and sure, I could do the job. So we're sitting there, and when you're live, when live to tape in this case, like
Yeah.
every minute counts, like literally every minute counts. You do not want to rush yourself. And the executive producer came in and said, she's ready to go. We're starting now. She meaning Oprah.
Hmm.
And like, I was like, I remember having a lump in my throat, a pit in my stomach. And I mentally told myself, fasten your seatbelt. Let's go. It was
Right.
might have been one of the scariest moments, and they count down and they're in it. And product placement is extremely important there. And
Yeah.
Oprah's got to say the names of her sponsors. And it was like
Absolutely.
the Microsoft Surface was coming out, and the teleprompter went down, or the Chiron where you write
Yeah.
what it
Yep.
is. And the guy next to me panicked. He literally had a panic. And then the person to the left of me, and I had to sit calm and cool as a cucumber. It's like, I don't know how to spell elliptical. It was for another thing. And I just looked at him, I said, sound it out. It will be okay. And we got through it. It was great. Everything was amazing, but I'll never forget in those moments, like I was either going to die horribly or come out a hero. And fortunately, I came out a hero on that one.
What were some of the favorite projects that you worked on? And do you have a couple favorite memories and stories that you could share with us and the listeners here?
Absolutely. Um, My all-time favorite was for National Geographic Channel, and the show was called Worlds Apart. And the idea is that you would take a typical American family. So let's say a Palmer family from New Jersey who lives in the suburbs, dad commutes, three kids, video games, Domino's pizza. And I brought them to a remote village in Africa, in this case, Core, Kenya, to live with a typical African family. And the idea is leave where you are to learn who you are. So it was really the most incredible experience from every facet for scouting. I went by myself to like the remote parts of Africa through Kenya
Wow.
and Ghana, trying to find a traditional Kenyan family who spoke English. Like it was bananas. And so that in itself was such an incredible yeah, I mean, just we could spend hours talking about that. But then taking this family who went through this sort of transformation and bonding with a family in a village in Africa that
Hmm.
literally changed their lives forever. And I'm still in touch with this family. We did that, I want to say 2000, the early 2000s.
Hmm.
And it was like, I mean, to this day, we'd stay in touch. They're now world travelers. They support foundations around the world. And knowing that I could transform was so meaningful, and an incredible experience. Another one I loved, like mystery diagnosis, for Discovery Channel. You know, following the mystery and the path of people who for years battled illness and were told they were crazy, they couldn't
Right.
figure it out. And then to see how their problems were solved, um, was an incredible experience to share that with other people. And then for me, that was life changing because how I approach medical, and how I approach things in life, is from that show. So everything I've learned has become a part of me. You can slice me in a lab and see all the TV shows I worked on.
So at this point, you've got a great career. You're starting to have children
Yeah.
and you're married. Um, Does there anything that stuck out? Said, man, because there are demanding days, demanding schedule, long hours. You're away, not seeing those loved ones. Um, when did you start to kind of have conversations or just some memories of things that you were kind of starting to realize it might be time to get out of this industry and look for something different?
So I'm going to tell you two moments here stand out. One of them was I was pregnant with my second son, and I was producing Real Housewives of Atlanta, and it was season one. And again, what an experience, right? An incredible opportunity. And you work your whole career to have moments like
Hmm.
this, a hit show, to be part of something bigger than who you are, but to be part of a movement. It's really
Yeah.
incredible. So we knew the show was being received, incredibly well. Bravo loved it. Viewership was up. Season two was picked up. But I was pregnant with my second son. At this point, my husband, we had decided he wanted to do his own entrepreneurial journey, and he left working for corporate America to buy a small cleaning company in Florida. He was commuting back and forth. And we were like, what are we doing? You know? At some point you have to put your family first and the
Yeah.
strain of it all. And we had a very meaningful conversation about it. He said, if you want to stay here and do this and you want to keep going, like I'll support you. I can't buy this company and this will be a type of life we have. And that didn't sit well with me. I
Hmm.
said, like, that's very selfish and is ultimately, shows come and go. And while it was an incredible opportunity and I worked for the most amazing people, incredible company, I went in and I said, I have to resign. And they, from season two, we was about to start. And they were like, what?
You got a hit, right?
I was like, no, we're going to Florida and we're starting a commercial cleaning company. That is truth. So everyone thought I was really off my rocker at
Hmm.
that point. So that was like the first big, but when we got down to Florida and we had we'll talk about this more in a bit, but essentially I stayed working in television, and it was after really producing Airport 24/7 for Travel Channel, another amazing experience. Like I got to work with TSA and CBP and in the like on the tower, and wow, what an amazing experience. But I would bring to my kids to preschool in the morning and I wouldn't see them until the next morning. Um, and that was really, really tough. And my husband said to me, why are you working so hard to make other people money? What about our family? What about building something for us and our business? And that's a whoa.
That's a real question, a
That's
real
a
moment. Wow.
that's a moment, right? Or when your child walks up to you, Lily, I mean mommy, because the nanny's name is Lily, right? I guess I'm being very transparent. I'm putting it all out there right now. But at that moment, it was the shift. So
Hmm.
the shift had happened twice, but that second one was really, that was the true shift that changed the trajectory of my life. And it didn't happen like it wasn't an instantaneous, but that's where the seeds were planted. That's the pivotal moment.
Both feet are now planted. You're getting in the industry, which your husband had prior, had some family experience working in the commercial cleaning industry, correct?
Yes. So Mark's father had a company in Miami, Action Clean with a K, which is where our AK comes from. So Mark grew up in the industry. He knew it really, really well. Never wanted to really work with his dad or be in a family business. And, everyone needs to spread their wings and do their
Yeah.
own thing. But it's a business he knew really, really well. So when he said, you know what, it's time, and he wanted his entrepreneurial journey to begin, um, I supported it fully. In fact, we were like in Aspen on a mountaintop shooting something for E when he told me this initial dream, and I was like, huh, okay, like literally skied off the mountain. But so that's how this came to be. So yeah, Mark knows it really, really well. And then when I came in and enter my background and skill set and passion, that's when things really started to happen.
So now you're involved. You guys have committed. You moved both of you down into Florida. Can you share some of the early challenges after you've been settled that you're starting to face now that you guys have solely taken over this company?
Well, I would say the challenges in the early days before I was even involved in a challenge in any business, um, and as you continue to grow, is you want to bootstrap as much as you can, right? Like we're a service industry. Um, Cleaning is 30-day contracts. I don't care what contract you have, it's 30 days. And but you need to grow and you need to invest, right? So there's that inherent pull. You don't want to spend too much in overhead,
Mhm.
but you also need to grow because when you're smaller and you can bootstrap, like there's a certain amount of bandwidth and capacity. Once I joined, yeah, it took the load off a little bit, but I think slow and steady wins that race. And it's that natural tug of war of knowing when is it really time to invest and to grow.
For some people that are new owners, could you elaborate into those types of positions where, let's say, somebody's listening right now, they're about to maybe scale and maybe looking into hiring those positions?
Okay, so here's an example. Mark is a CPA by training. He's a numbers guy. So why would we hire a CFO when he could do his accounting and it's the finances for the company? And Mark has a master's in taxation. Why would we hire an accounting firm to do our taxes if Mark can do them? I think you get to a certain point where sure, I can do all these things, but is that really where my time should be? Or should
Yeah.
my time be forward facing with customers? Should my time be looking at strategy and growth of the company? There's 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week. That's universal, no matter who
Hmm.
you are. If you're Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett, Shari Cedar, or, dude first starting out.
Hmm.
And you have to know how to manage that and when to hire and when to bring on that CFO or a controller. And, that goes for HR, that goes for area managers, that goes for a sales team.
What were the first things you noticed your skill set transferring over from the TV world? What were some of the things you noticed your maybe budgeting, time sensitivity to logistics,
Oh, it's a good
that things
question.
things that you use every day as a CEO?
Okay, so I love a structure. I love a structure. My TV world, there's a pre-production, production, and post-production,
Hmm.
right? Pre-production, you're doing everything up front. You get your systems, you're hiring, your setup. Your production is when you're making the show, and then production's when you're putting it together in the aftermath. Well, that philosophy, I didn't know it at the time, really holds true for commercial cleaning and probably for any business for that matter. So what does that mean? Pre-production. You're out there, let's say you're starting a new account. Okay. What are all those things on my checklist that I need to do? What are the alarm codes? What are the who are your contacts? What are the hours? Are you going to have your SDS books and all of that? Production is when it's happening and you're starting it up. And then post-production is the maintenance and continuation of that account. Now, that's a very minute, small example for a much larger company and how that principle would apply to a company. But I found that skill set works. Additionally, communication,
Hmm.
right? Like
Absolutely.
communication has to be crisp, it has to be on point, it has to be immediate, and there can't be any room for interpretation. For example, can you go to this building and pick out the bathroom? Like, what does that mean? Go to this property, meet this person on site. Here's their phone number. Here's the time you could go. This is the exact spot I want you to take a look at. Text me a picture, report back. Is
Right.
there an issue with the dispenser? If so, what's the solution to fix it? You see the two different ways of communicating in what's better.
Yeah, being very direct and uh, covering the details. The T's, the I's, and the periods are all finalized.
And sorry to say, but in production, there's a million moving parts, right?
Yeah.
So if you make one change to the plan, there's a domino and a ripple effect that affects everybody. So the same really is in the commercial cleaning industry. If you change one thing in your plan, it ripples to everybody and everything. So it's sort of like situational awareness is key.
When you first stepped into AK Building Services, how intentional were you about building a brand, not just a company, right? Not what's going to set you apart. It's going to be your brand.
Mark has that operational side down pat, and he's really good about he really knows the numbers, the operations. But when I came in, it's like, no, who are we? What do we stand for? And that needs to be communicated in absolutely everything we do, like our creed, our code.
Hmm.
And that needs to be communicated really to our associates so they know what company they're part of, and to our existing customers so they know who their partners are, and then to potential customers so they know who we are and what we're all about. And it's really cohesive. So I think at AK Building Services, everything we do is very intentional. At least we try to make it intentional. Doesn't always work that way.
TV is all about managing personalities. There's lots of them. Deadlines. How do those same principles apply to managing teams and clients in your cleaning company?
So no matter what industry you're in, we're in the people industry, right?
Yep.
In television, you're dealing with maybe difficult network executives, maybe difficult talent, maybe like grumpy camera dudes, tech guys. Sorry, no offense, I love them all, but
That
um,
resonates. That resonates.
right? So we're in the people world. So it's all about how you treat people, how you communicate, um, how you listen and you show up for people, trust, respect. And I think that's across the board in any industry, but in commercial cleaning as well. Our frontline workers, our associates are incredible people who are often undervalued and underappreciated.
Right.
To treat everyone with respect and with kindness and to show that's really, really important. And the same for our customer. And if someone reams me out because they had a bad day and they just heard it from their boss, and then they saw like a piece of dust that maybe a cleaner mixed, and they call and they like freak out on you, well, the answer is not to freak out
Hmm.
back. The answer is to say, absolutely, we will take care of this right away. and then take care of it right away. Most likely they'll call you back and be like, thanks, I had a really bad day.
Mhm.
Sometimes they don't.
We're talking with former TV executive producer Shari Cedar, now CEO of AK Building Services with over 800 employees in the company and counting. I want to turn our attention to that. We were just kind of talking about building the brand. Now we're going to turn to company culture. When you are scaling culture with 800 plus employees, what are the things that you look for in a teammate, and what red flags stick out or do you look for?
Well, what I look for is a good person, like really good character traits. And that is at the manager level and at the frontline associate level. You want people you trust, people who give you a good vibe, people who are going to show up and well-intentioned. You know, you
Right.
can you can train somebody about cleaning. You can train them um industry knowledge, right? There's great tools in the industry. What you really can't train somebody is morals and character.
Mhm.
So that is key. And if I were to say a red flag, well, if they passed all that stuff, right? I want somebody who's had longevity at their previous employment. If you look at somebody's resume and they've gone like month to job to job to job and they're
Yeah.
monkey barring, like once or twice, okay, a company gets sold, a company gets shut down, or you move. But when you're seeing that pattern, it's telling about that individual.
And how difficult too is it? I mean, obviously, 800 employees to be able to have the right pieces, right? Because it's all about having the correct teammates, the right people, the right managers, field operators in the right place. Because if you don't get the right people, all of a sudden, if one slips through, then maybe they're disgruntled. You got to shut that down, and take care of that before it kind of becomes a little bit of a domino effect, right?
Okay, so the ideal world, you want everyone in the right seat on the right bus.
Yes.
Right? That's like the ultimate goal. Are you in the right seat on the right bus? If you're not, like, how do we fix that? That happens, and it's about looking at somebody's positives and their strengths and saying, okay, this person really excels in this area. How can I give them more of that or utilize it? And it's also recognizing, yeah, this just isn't going to work. Let's cut our losses right now
Yeah.
because not every situation works. But it's fluid. And if you're the kind of person or boss and you're like boom, 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 and you don't have flexibility, I don't know that this industry is going to work for you. Well, or anyone for that matter. Like you have to really, things change frequently in our industry. And as far as managing people and building culture, you have to keep your eyes open, one, again, to make sure you're really encouraging your teammates, everyone's showing up. If you do have that one, like spoiler, we'll call it, like the rotten
Mhm.
apple, get them out. You don't want them poisoning the wells.
All right. What does people first leadership look like for you in the daily operations?
People first leadership means treating others how you would want to be treated. And it means looking at people as humans, not as employees.
Yeah.
And I think if you have that mindset, um, that trickles down and it's in leadership first. If I'm nasty to somebody, and I don't start with kindness, like everyone's going to make mistakes. We're all human. I make mistakes, right? Like we're all human. But like
Yeah.
start out with something positive, what they somebody did positive that day. This is really great. And then or just be right direct to the point, not emotional. Because if you are like that as a leader, then my managers are going to be like that to their supervisors, and their supervisors will be like that to their frontline employees. But if we have nastiness at the top, and we're shooting off nasty emails and yelling at people and slamming doors and da da da, then they're going to do that and so on. So, people first is kindness and respect and appreciation, gratitude. And also, like a little bit of straight shooting, too. There's no dancing around things. Like, we all do
Right.
have a job to do here. You have to do it well. but there's a way to do that effectively.
We continue to hear in the industry across the board, one of the top two, top three problems, high turnover rate, something that you
Mm.
guys have don't have an issue with, obviously, with 800 plus employees, you're continually adding to that number. How have you guys been able to be so successful keeping that number very low and not having it become an issue for your guys' company?
First is in the hiring process, hire the right person for the right job. I think that is really key to dial in what does this position require? What is the skill set they need? Even the proximity of where our associate lives and what is their commute like,
Hmm.
right? You certainly don't want to hire someone and they have an hour drive. The cost of gas and the time in the car is not going to, they'll get there and quit in 2 days. So
Yeah.
that's number one, get the right person for the right job. Number two is really onboarding and training correctly. Because if you just throw somebody in without the right tools, without the right training, and without the right guidance, they get overwhelmed, they feel lost. It's like it's not going to work out.
Hmm.
So that's the second. The third is we try to really keep a positive and professional environment for everybody with value. And that's really important. And lastly, like money. You know, we
Right.
pay we pay above minimum standards, above minimum wage, and we try to do that as best we can and as often as we can. So it's an appealing job.
We hear a lot, especially in this industry, and this is something that I'm fascinated compared to other businesses, but husband and wives working together hand in hand in this industry, achieving success together. Uh, what did you learn early on working with one another? Uh, you already knew each other's strengths, but kind of how you're different, how different your skill set really was working with one another.
So I have to just like take a moment so I don't say anything that would land me in the doghouse. But
Right.
look, I think I learned very quickly, stay in my lane. And Mark stays in his lane. When you stay in your lane and you know what your responsibilities are and your role in the company,
Mhm.
that's key. So that's that. And also we've learned to really so let's just say you're at home, right? You have loose lips with one another and you really say what's on your mind. Maybe it's not always like the friendliest way to say it when you've had a long day, but when we're with our team, we are always professional and respectful. Um, that's really important. And I've told everyone, and if we're not, if we're like acting like husband and wife, will you please tell me so I can stop that right away?
What's it like to having your partner as your number one cheerleader, essentially? If he's working on a project or if you're working on a project, normally that conversation for my like with my wife happens at lunch or when we get home, but to be able to have that support, that teammate, that cheerleader right there with you, has to just be truly special.
It really is. And, for the most part, I think it really is. I always joke that Mark and I are one person in a weird way because our skill sets are so complementary. Um, and we're a really good sounding board for each other. So if someone's like, the other one can take it down and vice versa. We totally can relate about what's going on at work. So it's a great thing. And I think I can attribute our company's success. It wouldn't be just to Mark or just to me. I think it's us working truly as a team with a common goal that's allowed us to have the growth that we've had.
The industry so competitive. Um, how did you differentiate AK Building Service on quality, trust, and values? Because one, especially now, one negative review, one Google review can, flip a switch and all of a sudden business is heading somewhere else.
Absolutely. Do what you say you're going to do and exceed expectations. Follow through and deliver, honor your word and your integrity. That's all you have. I mean, really, truly, if you say you're going to do something, do it really, really well. And if somebody made a mistake, own that mistake, fix it right away and move forward. You know, I don't want to say it's so simple because I can get in fancy branding and this and that, and we do
Right.
the training and sure, we have great training, we have great leadership and whatever, but really when it comes down to is integrity and follow through and exceptional service.
We're seeing more and more women leaders, women owners, CEOs in the commercial cleaning industry. I mean, ISSA's done a great job
Yeah.
branching out, the different organizations, the sub organizations that they've had for supporting female business owners. What advice would you give to women stepping into a leadership role in facilities services here in 2025?
Continue learning. Like, life is a journey
Hmm.
and just embrace it. Find mentors who can help you along the way. I have what I call a personal board, right, of women professionals, maybe some in the industry, some not, who I have as my sounding board for business issues. And that's been incredibly helpful to me. Never be intimidated. If there's a room full of men, own that. And when I say own that, you are capable, you are smart, you are where you are for a reason, and follow that instinct. I think whether you're male, female, shouldn't matter. And I love
Yeah.
that there's women in the industry. And I love that there's women in cleaning. And we need more of that.
Hmm.
So, just stay strong and stay on the course.
One area where you guys have been focusing and kind of want to shift gears and talk about a little bit is um, healthier buildings. Are
Mhm.
clients expecting healthier buildings now, not just cleaner ones? And what are the expectations like? I know it's been over 5 years, right, since 2020. Are those expectations still high where we want the healthy buildings? Or are they starting to kind of come back down where people are like, okay, you know what, we're safe for now?
An interesting question. I don't think there's a clear-cut answer for that. The medical facilities, schools, condominiums for the most part, and some other industries really that's their new normal, right? That's the new normal. Like that has to be it. Healthy building, no question, because that's where people are living, kids are in school, medical. Um, I like to believe the rest holds true for single tenant, multi-tenant buildings, branch banks, auto dealerships. I think if we were to see a slide in that, that would be the area where simply because people are cost conscious, right?
Yeah.
Especially in Florida where insurance rates are very high, labor rates continue to go up, and wages. So there's economic factors that may have to drive their decisions. I don't think anybody would verbally say, I want less.
Hmm.
But maybe if they say this is my budget, what can you do with it? But here's our challenge as the industry though. And like we're working really hard at this. Healthy buildings, no matter what you can pay, we're going to make it happen. And that's because our practices are changing. So there's one you were asking me about customer mindset, but from our delivery, like we are not going to take that away. We're trying to get as creative as we can with green seal products, microfiber, HEPA
Yeah.
vacuums, things of that nature that are in our everyday repertoire. And that helps with healthy buildings. That's a mindset we need to keep. I should say it's a mindset we choose to keep. That will never go away for AK Building Services.
And how has these advancements, these changes in the last few years, changed the way you guys invest in training, technology, or certifications to help address this seismic shift?
Well, I wouldn't say a change, I would say an evolution.
Yeah.
And as we grow as a company and we put a lot of value and emphasis on training and certifications, like any industry, things evolve. There's always new products, there's new science, and we want to be at the front of that. Like that's the fun part.
Right.
So the more we know, the more we learn, the more we train our people, the better service we deliver, the more problems we solve for our customers, the better we're going to be.
And then, of course, the tough part too, how do you educate or guide your clients toward making smarter, healthier driven decisions and getting them to understand? I know they understand, but how do you continue to inform them, hey, this is a priority for us, and we just need to continue to address this.
It sounds cliche. It really does, but it's about having a conversation and really explaining why it matters and what problem will this solve for you and how this is going to help your business thrive and less headaches for you. So if we're dealing with a facility manager, for instance, like a facility manager, like they just want everything to be great. They want their
Right.
their tenants to be happy. They want their building owner to be happy. They just like want it done.
Exactly.
They, right? So if you can show them and explain how this is going to help them be more efficient, maybe able to raise their rents, maybe able to get longer tenants, maybe their tenants will be happier and give compliments or, you know, you just need to show and paint that picture.
You guys have been around since the early 2000s, achieving great success, continuing to expand over 800 employees and continuing to count. When you have achieved continued success and milestones like you guys have, what do you guys see as the future? Where do you guys want to continue to be able to grow in Florida?
Every time I see a building that I'm not cleaning, I want to clean it.
Love that competitive nature. Yes.
Look, Florida is an incredibly healthy economy. People are relocating. It's one of the fastest growing states in the country. Amazon is down here opening their headquarters and you're having a lot of growth. So I just think as the in the industry there's opportunity. So we see that opportunity and we want to seize on it and continue to grow in a healthy and steady way.
Looking back, what did TV teach you about yourself as a leader, or about yourself as a person that continues that you continue to see every day in your career now in 2025?
It's a great question. As a journalist, and I said this earlier, as a journalist, you're assigned a story. You know nothing about it, most likely. And you go in and you become a fast expert and you master it. Maybe not to the proficiency where I'm going to be performing surgery, but you go in there and you understand the fundamentals of what a surgeon does because you study it. So I think knowledge is power, knowledge brings confidence. And when you come into an industry, whether you're new or not, and you embrace it and you learn, educate yourself, you can kind of do anything. And I'm going to equate it, I run marathons. And if you can run a marathon, you can do anything. So TV taught me never be scared, face forward, and, finish and accomplish your goal.
Sure, we're so thankful for you taking time, and we're grateful for you sharing your wisdom, your knowledge in the industry here. Um, where can our audience connect with you online if they want to network with you, or if they have any just general questions? Where can they connect with you?
Find me on LinkedIn. You could put my little LinkedIn down there, but no, find me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with you. Send me though a little note where that you heard me on this podcast. Um, and I'd be happy to have a conversation, connect, and see where it goes.
Well, appreciate your time, and thank you again for coming on. I've loved this story. I know TV nerd like me in the industry, so I appreciate you taking time to share that story. And your story continues to be written now in the commercial cleaning industry.
Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
That will complete this month's edition of the Business of Cleaning podcast. Be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast from. Also, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and your comments. From everyone at Janitorial Manager, our guest, Shari Cedar, I'm Tim Clyde saying so long until next time.